Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've really grown this Thanksgiving. The comedian Kevin James once said, "Thanksgiving, man, not a good day for my pants." And that's a little how I feel. It's been a great Thanksgiving, and I've really got into the spirit of an American Thanksgiving where it seems to be your patriotic duty to overeat. Now, if that's the case, I surely must be one of the best citizens of this country, based on my efforts of the last 3 or 4 days. Thanksgiving for me has been an amazing, wonderful time spent with people that I care about very much and that I feel very safe with. But I know that's not the case for everybody. I know for some people Thanksgiving is not a good day because of maybe family tensions, maybe loneliness, or maybe some unresolved doubt about the past. Now, how many of you remember the episode of The Simpsons? This is the Thanksgiving episode of The Simpsons, where Homer says grace, says a prayer before the meal. And it goes like this. He says, "Dear Lord, we thank you for the moments of peace and happiness in our family." Well, not today. You saw what happened, Lord. Are we the most pathetic family in the universe or what? And then they all start opening their eyes, and the cynical aunt who's sitting at the table says, "Worst prayer yet." So what do you do at Thanksgiving when you don't feel grateful for the people in your life? How do you live with Thanksgiving when it's a difficult time, when it's a time of tension and unresolved doubt? Should you still be thankful? Should you turn a blind eye to those people and situations that you don't feel aligned with? How do you resolve this tension at Thanksgiving? Or how do you resolve the tension in the world at large when things aren't the way we want them to be? How can we remain grateful for things in the world that aren't operating the way we think they should be? There's another great grace moment in a movie. How many of you remember the movie called The Ice Storm that came out in the 1990s? The Ice Storm. Christina Ricci is the sassy 14-year-old daughter who's asked to say grace before the meal. And this is what she says in her prayer. "Dear Lord, we give thanks for all the incredible possessions that we have, and for letting us, white folk, kill all the Indians and steal their tribal lands, and for letting us stuff our face like pigs while children in Asia are napalmed." And the parents quickly shut her up and tried to move on. "Please pass the potatoes." But what do you do when you're not satisfied with the way the world is? How do you live with gratitude? How do you experience thanksgiving when there's so much suffering in the world that you can barely stand it? How do you have gratitude for all things when so much in the world seems to be upside down and backwards? There's a professor down in the University of Texas, his name is Robert Jensen, who suggested that Thanksgiving has become a white supremacist ritual, and that rather than stuffing our faces at Thanksgiving, we should take a fast of atonement for the actions of our nation. Now, you can agree with him or not, but the point that I'm making is how do you celebrate a Thanksgiving with the doubts over this occasion and where it sprung from? How do you live with gratitude and joy when so much of what we appreciate in life has come about because other people have had it taken from them? I had an experience of this myself. About 20 years ago, I was involved in a homeless prayer breakfast in the inner suburbs of Sydney. Every Sunday morning we would gather, and about 100 homeless people, men, women, children, whole families who lived on the streets, would come and gather with us, and we would share breakfast together. And we would gather around a long table and stand up before the meal began. It was the custom of this group that someone one of the volunteers would say grace before the meal. So I'm standing around a table with a lot of homeless people who are clutching onto their plastic plates and forks, waiting for their baked beans to be served, waiting patiently while a pious middle-class man says grace. I'm standing around next to one particular man. He's probably the scruffiest man present, muttering under his breath the whole time. And the grace begins, and it goes like this. You've heard it before. Dear Lord, we thank you for your incredible gifts and goodness to us. Without you, we would have nothing good. And then right at that moment, the homeless guy who's standing next to me calls out under his breath, but loud enough for all of us to hear, yeah, real good. And it was about as awkward in that occasion as it was here when I just said it. I mean, should this man have been grateful? On the one hand, yes. On the one hand, we'd given up our morning to make breakfast for him. We were doing it with good hearts. On the one hand, he should have been grateful. On the other hand, baked beans in a plastic plate don't really go all the way to making up for the misery that this man's life was. I came away from that morning with the strong sense that there wasn't a single person present that day in that hall, and there isn't a single person present today in this space who hasn't at some point, even quietly in the privacy of your own mind, while people told you that life is good, didn't say, yeah, real good. You've had those moments. You know those moments. Maybe some of you are having those moments right now. So how do you live gratitude in the context of feeling that life is not good? It's not good for me. It's not good for everyone. I doubt the goodness of life. How do you experience thanksgiving in the midst of that type of doubt? And that's the question I want to raise with you this morning. We have some choices. You can either turn a blind eye to that which is not good, pretend it's not there, go into denial, and give thanks only for those things which we enjoy. Or, and this is the option that I suggest we take, we can plant ourselves right in the middle of life, right in the middle of the muddle, right where it's messy, right where it doesn't feel good, right in the middle of doubt. You can plant yourself right there with an open mind, open heart, and open hands, and participate. Participate in all that life has to offer. Gratitude is not because life is good. Gratitude is because you have the privilege of participating in whatever life brings to you. Gratitude is not about denial. Gratitude is not about fantasy, wishing something were other than it is. Gratitude is about acceptance of life exactly as it is, and acknowledging the privilege of being able to participate in the evolution of humanity. What greater gift could there be than to participate in your own evolving humanity and the evolution of history? There is no greater gift. Let Thanksgiving be about the big picture rather than getting focused on the details, the ups and the downs of life, the good and the bad, the doubts and the certainties. Let gratitude be for the participation in all that life has to bring, in all of its variety and diversity.